Okay. I hope you like Mars and Taurus, both for the man and the woman. Now we're gonna move into Gemini. The same energy, because remember, we learned in high school science that energy cannot be created or destroyed. So now we have the energy of Mars go in Aries and then ground itself and collect itself in Taurus. Now in Gemini, it does this. It's air, mutable air. Okay? So now the concentrated energy that comes out like an explosion or a big busting of a nut in Aries simmers in a slow cook. And you can smell what's cooking throughout the whole house. But now, in Gemini, it's all over the place. You can't grab it. You can't capture it. Can you contain air? You can't contain air. So, Mars in Gemini is at its detriment. Now, someone said that they mentioned Mars being detriment somewhere, and I don't know what point they were trying to make, but they did make a valid statement, and I love that they understood about the detriments, the exaltations, and the fall. Mars is in its fall in Cancer, it's in its detriment in Gemini, and it's exalted in Capricorn. Okay? So, Gemini here is the sex leaves the physical body of Taurus and it enters the mind. Now sex has been compartmentalized into the mind. This is Mars in Gemini. Okay? And Mars and Gemini is a lot of fun. A lot of fun. I love Gemini. It's my brother, it's my sister. You know? Mercury is the co-ruler. Mercury rules Mercury rules Gemini and it rules Virgo. So the sexual energy when we reach Mars and Virgo, it's not that much different when Mars is in Gemini. But Virgo makes use of the mental imaginations of Gemini. Whereas Gemini is just content in leaving it there and not actualizing it. Mars in Gemini is tricky. Remember, we're dealing with duality. We're dealing with two. So we are looking at Jekyll and Hyde. The Jekyll and Hyde syndrome that's so inherent in Gemini. And this too takes a place sexually when Mars enters Gemini. So we're going to jump right in and we're going to go into the specificities of Mars in Gemini. Okay? Understand that when Mars is in Gemini, well, first, Geminis are talkers. You have to understand, that Gemini is the sign of communication. When you have Mars in Gemini, you're talking all the time, 24/7. And if you're not talking, you're thinking. Mars is the god of war. So, Mars in Gemini can make you verbally very cruel, nasty, nasty. I know many people with Mars in Gemini. And let me tell you, some of them, meeting them and experiencing them has been the most distasteful experience I've had in my life. Mars in Gemini is in its detriment. And it's in its fall in Cancer, which is worse. And we'll get to Cancer. in due time. But Mars in Gemini can make you go into a mental war, a verbal mind game, you fuck with people's heads. You use language and thoughts and ideas as a weapon against people. I know many people with Mars and Gemini, and some of them are good friends of mine, but they are nasty, ratchet, and low ghetto. Even among the most sophisticated of them, anything can flip them. It's that Jekyll and Hyde. And with Mars there, these people can destroy you with their words. Mars in Gemini. The energy of Mars goes to the mind. And now the mind becomes a weapon against humanity when you're born with Mars in Gemini. But this is, again, like in Taurus, we have Gemini and the function of Mars operating in two speeds. But they're different speeds than what we described in Taurus. Here, we are discussing mental speed, whereas in Taurus, it was physical and earthly, pertaining to the five senses. In Gemini, we have one side Jekyll and the other side Hyde. One is cruel and will destroy you with a knife. With their words. Until they meet Virgo. We'll tell them a new one. Because we can be nasty with our words too. And put you in your place. Well, Gemini is close to second with Mars there. Now, understand how this morphosis when we're dealing with human sexuality. When we're dealing with human sexuality, when we're dealing with human personality, we are dealing with connections, networking. Gemini rules friends along with Aquarius. It is the connection with people, making connections, socialization. The vehicle of socialization and of meeting and parties, because Gemini is all about parties and socialization and making connections, but superficial. It's not cardinal like Libra, which does the same thing, but for the goal of making actual meaningful connections. With Gemini, the connections are not meaningful. They're superficial. And it's only a way for the Gemini person to discover themselves through the agency of other people. And they can do this by merging with people or colliding with people. Not that much different from Aquarius and Libra, the other two air signs. It's just that they go about it in a different way. This same approach can be discussed when we're dealing with human sexuality, with Mars in Gemini. Yo nunca besaré tu boca. Tito Rodriguez. If you're not Spanish, you won't appreciate the beautiful ballads of this great figure who's now deceased. And just, he was born to write these songs for me to use in my video as a background to fuel the emotional excitement of the video. And that's what makes, that's my Venus in Leo. You know, keep it light and exciting. No. So, going back to Mars and Gemini, let's begin with the talking part of Gemini. Let's talk about that aspect of Gemini. Okay, they love to talk and to express themselves. Oh my God, and this they must do. They can be fidgety and become bored easily. That's another issue with them. They can be very high strung with a lot of nervous energy. It's not conscious, excited energy. It is unconscious, indirect, nervous energy. Some Geminis, you can see that their hands move or they twitch. You know, they are like, you know, it's nervous energy. They can be inclined to cheat when in a relationship. That's the other thing. Again, that Jekyll and Hyde. One may come to you full of fidelity, but then the other side will be cheating on you left and right. It's the Jekyll and Hyde syndrome. So we see this dichotomy expressed in the sexual practices of the Mars and Gemini person. If they are in love with you, know that the other side of Gemini will cheat on you or can cheat on you. And if they don't do it physically, they'll do it mentally. Okay? So, especially if they feel that they are not being treated well, they will grow bored, pretty much like men born with Venus in Gemini. The mind is active, and there is a fondness for puzzles and word games that engages the mind. These people have crossword puzzles. Now I carry one in my bag. Crossword puzzles. You know, I'm ruled by Mercury, which rules Gemini. So I have some of the same characteristics of Gemini. You know, they they. I love the mind as a form of a means to an end. That's Virgo. That's the Earth part. We need to make tangible results, practical results of our ideas and thoughts. This is not the case with Gemini. Gemini is very content on just exploring the ideas and leaving it there. That's it. They can be happy creating a simulation of their own mental construct, which could be based on reality or not. Either way, they make it functional. I know Geminis or people with the moon in Gemini that have love affairs, romantic love affairs, and I might know the same people that I have this woman. She's been in love. She's the same gender loving. This woman was in love or has been, still is in love with the same woman and this woman is in her 80s. This woman knew this other woman for over 40 years. Now, the Gemini woman, my friend, never confessed her love to this woman. And she's not quite sure if the woman feels the same way about her. But in her head, they have the best love affair. And this woman has never had a homosexual relationship with another woman. And she doesn't even know if this woman is gay or if she likes other women. And I've heard of this woman that she has been mentioning to me. I'm 51, she's in her 80s, and I've known this woman now over 10 years. And my friend knows her for even far longer, 40 years. And she still speaks the same romantic bubble that she has created about this woman when they met back in the 80s. And still holds that same vision, that same expectation, that same reality, which is completely unreal. I don't think the woman even has a clue that this woman has a lesbian attraction to her. But this woman, my friend, has constructed a life around this supposed reality and truth. She will not come out of her own space to explore if she can actually make this real. Why? Because she's afraid of the emotional hurt and rejection. So I say this to say that women and men born with Mars in Gemini will create a simulated reality in their mind, a matrix of their own making that may parallel or contra-parallel the actual physical world in which they live in. It's deep. And Gemini can do this because again it's two in one. And this is why the Gemini woman or man are very poorly understood as human individuals, except for Virgo. We know Gemini. Oh, and they know we know them. No, but not and Scorpio and Scorpio. But understand that these people might not even know themselves or even be psychologically in awareness that they've created a simulation of a bubble of what should be an actual experience of reality. Now, why do some of them choose to run away from the actual experience of these emotions and feelings? They're afraid of being hurt. Gemini doesn't do well dealing with feelings, and neither does Libra, and worse, Aquarius. You know, so they'll find compensatory mechanisms, as psychologists and psychotherapists are accustomed to using the term. Compensatory mechanisms. And with Gemini, they use their mind as a form of escape and as a reference point of their own making that they can refer to, independent of your thoughts, your feels, your needs, and even your own constructs. Oh, yeah. And Gemini can be very arrogant in this way, mentally very arrogant, especially those born with Mars in Gemini. In the light of things, to be compatible with someone with Mars in Gemini is going to require that you engage or participate in their mental construct. If you don't engage or participate in their mental construct, they'll throw you away like this, like that. I'll give you an example. I go out on a date and everything is going fine, real nice, real good. We're having a great conversation, having dinner. We finish dinner. We go for a bar, have a couple of women. We meet people because that's part of the courtship, right? I'm dealing with a Gemini woman. We are meeting people at the bar. We'll leave the bar and we'll bar hop and we'll take some people that we met in other bars with us because that's Gemini. And we'll collect and we're drinking and we're talking and we're partying. And of course, we're all very attractive because, you know, Gemini, these are very attractive looking people. Again, the esoteric ruler of Gemini is Venus. So you have many men and women that are exceptionally beautiful, handsome, beautiful people. And with that comes a certain field of experience where you attract the beautiful ones and the glamour and the trappings that surrounds people of refiner senses and tastes and appearances. Let me put it that way. But then we go home and it's time for sex. And this happened to me. So we go. I'm getting ready, make myself comfortable. She comes out. She grabs me and says to me, tell me how much you want to fuck me. Slap me. Hit me. Talk dirty to me. Call me a bitch. Rip my panties off. That's Mars in Gemini. Dirty talk. I was 21 when it happened. I'm like, oh. It caught me by surprise, but I got into acting mode and I played the role. So, and the thing is that when it comes to sex, the Mars and Gemini woman and man, they gotta lead. And if they don't lead, they don't want to have sex with you. Because again, if you lead, then you control the situation. They don't want you to control the situation mentally. Because then that means becoming emotionally involved. And that's what they don't want to do. This is especially true if we're dealing with someone below age 30. But we do see it with those above age 30. So, Mars in Gemini is good at argument. These people can be prone to be indecisive and then change their minds and their stances when it comes to different topics. These communicative vehicles of Gemini are very intellectual, but not profound. It touches on things, but not a full discourse of these things is explored. Mars in Gemini is how can I put it? These are the most easily bored people on the zodiac. This placement of Mars in Gemini, it gives dexterity, physical coordination, and can make someone a taskmaster. But the key to understanding Mars in Gemini as a lover is to recognize that sex is not essential to these people. Sex is not essential. That doesn't mean that sex is not necessary. It doesn't mean that sex is not good with Gemini. Geminis are fantastic at sex, you know, if you catch them at the right mood. And the right mood will be that they gotta be friends with you first. But here we go again with the two modalities or the two speeds. Because on one end, yeah, that's true. But then the other side, the Jekyll and Hyde, Gemini likes to have sex with random people and unprotected and risky. The riskier, the better. So, a Gemini woman could be married for 20, 30 years, go on a trip, on a business trip, and fuck a nigga right in the bathroom in the plane. And she didn't plan it. It wasn't premeditated. It just happened. It's mutable air. The excitement and energy of Mars will appear anywhere where she is, with Mars in Gemini. Mars is the planet of sexuality, along with Venus. So, sex will always be an opportunity that the Gemini woman or man or those with Mars in Gemini will grasp and embrace. And that kind of sex is far more exciting than the missionary position. Understand that sex with Gemini has to be kinky, dirty, risky, and even taboo. And if these elements are not involved with the Mars and Gemini person, then they're going to leave you and find someone far more exciting and far more exotic than you. This is Mars and Gemini. Again, the ego and the human personality reaches complexity. This complexity reaches its height in Sagittarius. But this complexity of the ego and the personality begins in Gemini. Because we're dealing with two egos and two personalities in one soul structure, in one body. And if you don't understand that going in, then you're not going to understand someone born with Mars in Gemini. When you're dealing with a person with Mars in Gemini, because sex is not as essential as it is in Taurus and in Aries, another way for them to dispel, well, let me take that back. I'm not going to say the word dispel. For them to enjoy the same level of sexual excitement that you will find with Mars in Taurus or with Mars in Aries, you have to re-examine again the art of language. For them, sex is all about the language. If you can dirty talk, or if you can ignite or make someone orgasm just by the words you use, then that's better than actually busting a nut or having a vaginal multiple orgasms. Because there's no orgasm more powerful than the orgasms that occurs in the mind. Think about that. That's deep. Think about that for a minute. I don't care how good you may be in the sack. It's 10 times better in the mind. But we got people that I don't like sex in my mind. I'm earth. I like physical. I like to get down and dirty. But Gemini is not earth. It's air. So sex is a little bit more impersonal when you're dealing with the air signs, especially with Mars in Gemini, where the energies can become more scattered, more dissipated. So if you really want to make a go of it with a Gemini Mars woman, or a Gemini Mars man or woman, you're gonna have to realize that to get these men and these women, you need to seduce their mind. No, oh God, that Tito Rodriguez is fierce. There'll never be another ballad artist like this man from Puerto Rico, the best that came out of Puerto Rico, and I like him out of Puerto Rico. This man was an icon. Makes me psychologically happy to hear his music, and it is the fuel behind my excitement when I do these videos. He too was a Virgo with a lot of Leo, just like me. Yeah. So understand that when it is available, when it is available, they can reveal without reservation or conscious when it comes to sex. But when they are not, when they don't resonate with the partner, with the person, they can get uncomfortable and can do without sex. They can do without sex. They can do without sex. Oh Lord, baby. They can. Like Virgo. Virgo is another sign that can do without sex. Okay? Sex is not that powerful to us. And it is powerful, but we're not enraptured and engulfed by it. We can take it or leave it. And that in itself is powerful. So understand that if you are a sexual person and you're with someone with Mars and Gemini, it's going to be an automatic mismatch. Because they're not going to be as invested sexually as you are. It's not that these people are not sexual or sensual, but they're not going to use the physical body as a vehicle to express that. To them, it's all the mental construct. That is the feel bed in which the sexual expression and experience begins. And then it disseminates into the actual physical manifestation. Understand what we're talking about here. Okay? And we went over. We went over 4 minutes. It's 28 minutes. We're done with part one.